Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on event preparation. So your registration site is live, you're clicking registrants, and now you've got to start thinking about the actual event date. And there's some things that you want to get ready before the big day. Maybe you want to print some name badges, or perhaps you want to prepare the certificates for the attendees that complete your event, or prepare mailing labels. Or you want to understand the different check-in options you can use in the STOVA event registration site. Well, you're in luck. That is what we are going to cover today. I'm Steve McGillivray. I work in the Office of University Events and Protocol here at Arizona State University. I do not work for STOVA. It just sounds like I do. But I am one of the 2 account admins here at the university. So this is a sort of a continuation of our Event Builder series where we're taking a deep dive into these features. I know we're scheduled for about 90 minutes, but I think the presentation will last about 60. It'll be less than 90 and then have plenty of time for questions if we need it. So let's just jump in. And as usual, we start with housekeeping. As you came in, you heard that this session is being recorded. The link to the recording will be shared with you via email after the video has been processed. As we go through the presentation, you may see some other company names pop up besides STOVA. You might see Eventry, you might see eTouches. This is the same company that we've been using for almost 10 years now. They have just changed their name a couple times during that period, but it's the same platform we've been using. As we go through the presentation, if you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that, or you can simply unmute your microphone and ask right while we are in that section. Or if you think of questions later, that's fine. As I said, there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end of the presentation. All right, so let's get in there, and do not let 2 bullet points deceive you. There's a lot to cover in these 2 things, the badges, labels, and certificates feature, which is a way of taking the information in the event and from attendees and using them for different kinds of documents that you can generate for your event. And we'll be talking about a number of different check-in features available in a registration site, built in, and can be used for free. Okay, so start with badges, labels, and certificates. And the way the system works is that you design what the document is using that information in merge codes, and it will create for you a PDF, which then you can send to your office printer or perhaps to an outside printer to create whatever that document is. You can also use this feature to print badges on site during check-in. And you can design your project using event information, the event name, of course, start date, end dates, locations, or anything in the attendee info section that you've asked your registrants during the registration process. You can also add additional graphics or images to these documents, or just put in manual text. So let's show you how to do that. As usual, I start here at the STOVA support site by clicking in to log into my STOVA user account. And I just enter my ASU Right ID. And it takes me right into the cloud level where I see nothing, so I have to click on my team folder to see my list of events. And my event today I'll be using to demo is this one here. And if I click on the name, a little pro tip, if I click on the name, I'll go right into the overview page. But if I right click on the name from the events view, well, then I have some other options here. And I'll go into registration settings, although where I want to get to is the reports and functions section. But just again to remind you where that is when you are in the settings, which is the back end of your event registration. Over here, we want to go into reports and functions. Okay, and under Special functions and reports. The on-site function is the badges, labels, and certificates feature. I'm going to click on that and go in. And first, what you see are some things that we've programmed on the account level that's available as soon as you start a registration site. General purpose, and we'll talk about one or two of these later using, these use pre-programmed stocks, and you're free to use these. Generally, though, you're going to want to create something specific to your event. And so to do that, I'm going to click the Create New Badge button. And here I am. Let's call this the, sorry for about the Labrador in the back. Go ahead and give us a name, and now I pick my badge stock if I'm pre-printing, and we have a number of pre-programmed stocks here, quite a few of the Averys, and a few others. If you see badge now, that is STOVA's on-site badge printer, which you can contract with STOVA to use for your event, or you have that programmed. We have some other formats available. If you do not see yours available, or one of these is not comparable to one that you want to use as far as stock, simply send us the information, who's the manufacturer, what's the size, and we'll look up the specs and program it for you. That's something we do on the back end, so it's available to you. We have some other specific printers here. The Dymos, for example, are label makers, which can be used for printing badges. Fargo ID printer, something used at Gamage. And roll printer, that can be a generic use of a labeler. So for my purpose, I'm going to use one of the big ones. Let's use this Avery. And before I go any further, what I like to do is hit save and stay. And looking at some of these features, I generally skip these other ones and go right to designing the badge, but just so you're aware of some other features that you may be interested in. You have the ability to show, if you're using this for badge printing at check-in, you have the option of showing an error if the badge has already been printed. So maybe someone's trying to get away with something by having two badges. You can get an error message at check-in to show that. Show this error when the badge is printed more than once from the merge field. Again, I'm not sure what this merge field, that might be a new feature that I'm not familiar with. But again, I usually skip all these and go right down to badge content. As soon as I picked the stock, this little palette was created so that I can now begin creating my badge design. I usually like to go up a little bit to a bit larger size. Lovely. And now to add content, click the Add Content button. Let's start with an image or logo. And I'll select an image from the database. I don't think event logo is used anymore in this. That could be a deprecated feature. Or why would I use an image uploaded by a registrant? Well, if you have used the upload image feature in attendee info to ask them for a logo for their company or a photograph of themselves, you could have that on the badge as well. I'm going to use this for putting my event logo. So I'm going to select image. Oop, popped up on the other screen. Move it over here. Now, if I haven't already uploaded my images, hopefully you're familiar with this. I can click Upload Image to add it, but I don't want to do that here. If I add it here, I will never see that image again, and it actually may disappear. I have to be inside my unit folder. Now I can upload anywhere that I like. I think I've got some things here. Nope, I'm going to back up one, and I don't want to do the upload process. We've covered that somewhere else. There we go. So I'll use this logo here. Now, one of the features you see here on this import image is the lock the proportions of this image, and that sounds like it would be a good idea to do. However, don't do it yet. What I have found is that STOVA has a little bug where it always brings it an image a little squished. So let me show you how to use that correctly. Before I do, other things you can do is add a border around your image automatically. That's fine. And to keep note of this feature, you can have different images appear based on categories. So again, we mentioned maybe you want to bring in logos, maybe it's your sponsor logos. You would only need to show that from my exhibitors. Again, I'm using my conference example, my demo, which I've created. So I've got a multi-day, multi-session conference, and exhibitors are in here and sponsors. Okay. So I'm just going to stick to this graphic, and we're going to go save it and see what I mean by it squishes it. Okay, so I did not hit proportional. I click on this and I get all the handlebars for being able to maneuver it, resize it, that kind of thing. So I'm going to grab the sidebar here and I'm going to get that back to what it really should be. And I'm really just going by sight here. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to hit save and stay. And now I'm going to click it and go back in. You'll notice I've got two little handlebars down here. One is for going back to edit this box, and the other is to delete it. I just want to edit. Now I'll be able to click lock, and it actually works. At least it did in rehearsal. All right. So I've got this. I want it to go pretty centered there, and if I grab a handlebar, yeah, you can see that I'm resizing it and it's keeping it proportional. Wonderful. Okay, lovely. Now, after I finished working with any of these content boxes, I always hit the save and stay button. If I don't, if I was to click the add content before I've saved that, my changes would not be saved. Okay, another pro tip. Now let's add some content. Besides images, I can also again bring in any event information or registrant information or create a custom text box. I could also show any of the sessions that the attendee has selected on the badge. I can also create QR codes or barcodes if I wanted to, if I had a giveaway for a QR code, or could be used with a different check-in system, but not one we're going to talk about too much today. Actually, I just want to make sure I turned that on. But let's talk about adding text. Okay. So you can add simple setup, which means just one field at a time, or you can use advanced setup, which allows you to import multiple fields at one time. And you see some examples here: city, country, state, first name, last name in their country, or the full address that's pre-programmed that you're free to use, and which is fine to use. Some things you ought to know as we move down here. This is how we going to format this text. And one of these features says dynamically shrink the font size to fit all content. So if I was doing a first name, last name on one line, and sometimes I get some pretty long last names, long or they're hyphenated names, take up a lot of space, and they might be might be cut off if I don't adjust somehow. That sounds like it's a logical thing to use. This does not seem to work with the advanced setup. It can't do it with multiple fields. It can only seem to work when I'm doing a single setup field. So let's start off simple. And it's asking me for which field I'd like to use. Here are all my choices. Information from the registration, information about the attendees here. And if we go a little further, session information I could add, event information I could add. Let's just get our event name, billing information. If I want that displayed on the name badge, I could. Any of this could be used. And I'm just going to use event name. And I'd like it to be centered, and I like it big, and I like it big that way. And it shouldn't matter about being that, but just to be on the safe side. Anything else here, again, in this deep dive. Again, I could put a border around this if I wanted to. I don't have to use a transparent background. If I turn that off, I can choose what color goes behind my text in this text box, but I like to keep it transparent. Once again, I can have different fields appearing based on category visibility. But I'm just going to use the name. There we go here. And I want to be able to see, I'm going to use this grid. Place it. But I know it's going to be a short name, or hopefully it's going to be a short name. So it really shouldn't matter what the bottom is, but just for my own OCD, I'm going to put that there. And again, before I leave, I'm going to hit save and stay. And now let's grab some of our attendee names. This time let's do an advanced setup, and we'll do a first name, last name, but not with the company. See, now I get to pick the fields I want to use here. So let's start with, well, let's do 2. So we'll do first name, and actually, if I want a space, well, there are a couple of ways that we could do this. I want first name and last name. Now, because I want a space between these two names, I'll have to use that as a suffix. So a new line, if I says yes, it's going to put my first name on one line and my last name on a second line. Okay, so I don't want that. I want them to be together. Again, let's center that. Let's also go somewhat big there. Again, that's not going to work. See the same features as before as far as transparency and borders. All right. Now, if I wanted to use this for one badge for my vendors and for my attendees, and perhaps for the vendors I do want their company, here's where I could. I'll use simple setup. Company org is what I've used. Again, I'm going to like centering. We'll do something a little smaller. Oops. Well, let's work on what this looks like first. And now let's go back and again, I could have showed everyone's company, absolutely could have. I just wanted to show you how visibility settings work. I'm going to turn off that. Now I'm going to go to my exhibitors and I'll also do my sponsors. They're the only ones that will have a company display. Okay. I noticed that there are a few things here on the the screen that I forgot to talk about navigation-wise. So if I click on a box, you'll notice immediately over on the left, I actually get a little positioning field. So if I want to be more precise as far as where exactly the pixels, if I want everything centered on 0, 0 to start, and I know how wide this is, I could actually enter that. And if I want to rotate some text on a badge, here's how to do that. Why would I rotate? Well, there could be design reasons. Perhaps you want to put something along the side that says, sponsor, exhibitor, whatever. Or if you are making a two-sided badge, the way you would do that is actually make a design that's twice as big as you need, design half of it, and then duplicate it, and then flip those other pieces so that they would appear on the second side when folded. That's the only way to do a two-sided badge in STOVA. Okay. I'm going to call this good for demonstration purposes. And I'm going to save and exit and go back to my previous screen. And there is my new badge. Okay. And you'll see it's event level. So this is only going to be in my event registration. If I was to clone this, this will clone over to any copies of this registration site. So let's move over to, okay, how do I pre-print these badges? Well, to pre-print, you would use the run function. Over here, just click the arrow. And now you're in the generating badge section. I mean, it's called generating badge, but honestly, it's whatever you have picked on the other side to run. So if you're doing certificates, you'll still come here. It'll be called generating badge. Okay. It defaults to being confirmed registrations, but if there are other people you want to print, you can simply, based on, if you've got some people who are on the wait list, you just want to be prepared, you can check this so that those statuses are included here as well. How do you want these badges sorted? I'm not sure if it defaults, but I like to sort by last name and then first name. Do you want all the categories printed? Well, in this case, let's just do the general admission, right? Because I might have different batch stocks for groups, or I might need them segregated by their category. Then what's the number of badges per PDF? Well, you remember I told you that this is going to generate PDFs. So you decide how big the batches are. As you can see, I've got this event already has people registered, lots of people, and setting it how many badges per PDF determines how many files I have to download. How might I use this differently? Well, if I'm still doing testing of the badge design, I might just want to have it down to just a few and just check out one file download, maybe for a practice run to print. And when I go into final production, I might want to go for larger and have fewer files to download. Just be aware the more badges that you ask for, the bigger the file will be and the longer it will take the system to generate that badge. So I'm just going to stick to the defaults and click generate badges, and it will do its little PHP magic and open up a new window here with my badge design. Okay. So again, these were the attendees. I'm not going to have company printed on these. That is for the exhibitors and sponsors. Lovely. From here, I would just hit the download button from whatever that screen is. Everyone's got, looks a little different in that, but download that, send it to your printer, and if it's not right, no harm, no foul. You can go right back to editing the badge here. Okay? Anything else to be aware of? I think this takes you right back to the badge. Yeah, right back into the badge designer. And I could make any adjustments on the fly that I want to. That was a little big. I thought I had. Interesting. I had that set for dynamic shrinking and it didn't do it. Things you have to watch out for. When I hit save and exit, I'm going to go back to my main page. Okay, lovely. So now I'm ready. Now I'm set up for pre-printing badges, getting those PDFs to send to my printer. Now, You often are in the situation where you've pre-printed your badges and you get those last minute people in, and do you have to rerun all those badge stocks again since you have new registrants? No, you can select and print people's badges through the registrant list. Now, to do that, you have to do one thing before you leave here, and that's where this actives columns comes out. If you're going to want that feature through the registrant list, or you're going to use the printing at check-in option, you need to activate the badge or badges you intend to use. So I'm just going to turn on my Expo here. That's it. That's all I have to do. And now I can go to the registrant list to print some badges. So let's go there. All right. So, couple different options in registrant lists. If I have a few people to print, I can select them from the registrant list, and I can use this feature at the bottom with checked records, and one of the options is to generate badges. And it popped up on the other screen again, and it's already given me the preview of that. So I'm ready to print, or I can download this file to print at my convenience. Okay, lovely. I can also, if I just have one to print, I can go into the attendee profile through the confirmation number link, and I have this feature up here, generate badge. And same thing, keeps popping up on the other screen. Okay, now I'm using an Avery stock as my example. Probably wouldn't print a single badge on Avery stock unless I absolutely had to, but this can be a handy feature if you are printing badges to, again, label makers that check in, because the design of that would simply be a single badge sent to the printer. All right. Okay. All right, so we've talked about how that you can have badges printed at the check-in table. So how do we do that? Well, let's go talk about check-in options first off. Let's transition to that. Unless there are any questions, nope, checking chat. No questions about the badge printing feature. So these are the 4 check-in options available inside event registration out of the box. And I've just had them listed here by easiest to use and most frequently used to the little bit more complex and less used features. So mobile check-in works very well on iPads and tablets. It's a very simple way of checking people in based on a name or a company, quick and dirty. Self-scan is available if you provide people with a barcode and you need to do a lot of people in a short amount of time. You can then have a scanner attached to a laptop, and you're simply scanning that barcode to automatically check them in. Third, public self-check-in is a alternative way of checking in where you ask the person 2 pieces of information from the registration process that validates who they are, and then that checks them in. Self-scan and public self-check-in are nice because they can work in what are called kiosk modes. Kiosk modes means they open up in a web page and can run without being logged into your STOVA account. So you can set those web pages up on multiple workstations, and your staff don't have to be logged in to set that up. You can set up for them. They're already logged in. They will not be logged out. And we recommend actually that you close the STOVA account if you used it to start this process. Close that and just leave the kiosk mode window open, and then it's there with no. You won't be automatically logged out. If you leave your account open, it may log you out. So kiosk mode. And finally, administrator check-in. there are a lot of bells and whistles on administrator check-in. It's like mobile check-in on steroids, where you can see a lot more details, search for a lot more field information to locate somebody. And so let's take a look at these. Again, I'm going to go to reports and functions to get there. So let's talk about attendee options. You'll notice they're all under onsite. Some of them have a little edit button, and these are for the preferences for that. But mobile attendee check-in is pretty easy. You just click on it, and that will open it up. Now, to use any of these options, you have to be, your event registration has to be live or set to on-site. So if you have a live site, that means you're still taking in registrations while you're doing check-in. That's an option. If you want to close registration but still have these site, features available, that's when you would choose on-site. So what have I got here? If it's not turned on when you open mobile check-in, you will want to check turning on the direct link. And the direct link is what you would open up on your device. So if you wanted to copy this URL and email it to someone who's bringing their own device, or you want to put this in a place like a Google Doc or some document you're taking around on a flash drive to make it easy for yourself to open multiple devices, just click and save that URL. When you open that, this is what it looks like. So let me actually get my head bubble out of the way so you can see the full screen. Okay, now it jumped right into this event. It's the only one I have live. If I had multiple events that were live and using the check-in option, you might see a list of which event you want to go into. But we are ready to start checking in our attendees, and we go in, and you see I've got, first off, at the very top, I've got a way to search for attendees. But actually, before that field, I have a way of filtering attendees based on their categories. So if I want to make this a shorter list below, here is how I can do it based on categories. If I want to search for attendees, that's this search field here. And when I enter information here, by the way, I can't just hit the enter button. I have to click this spyglass button over here. And then it's giving me some pre-sorted tabs. Here are all the attendees. Who are the people who have not checked in, if I just want to see those folks who's left? Or do I want to take a quick check to see who has been checked in? I'll stick to all attendees. And when you find the person you want, if they are checked in, you'll see that that icon is dark versus if they're open icon, they have not checked in yet. So let's just click a person, and here are your options to check them in. And if I've made a mistake, oh, this is not this hikey. I'm waiting for a different hikey. I can easily just click that in there, checked out again, waiting to be checked in. And I can move on. Again, if I want to search for someone, see if I have anyone named Dan. Danielle, wonderful. I can find them, check them in, hit close, and I do have to clear that, hitting the X, and now I'm back to this list. Okay? Anything else on mobile check-in? Okay, going back to the settings. What are some of these settings? Well, there's a preload function in STOVA that's very rarely used, and unfortunately, that doesn't mean you can preload the information on your iPad or tablet or laptop. No, means you have used a preload function in the registration site to create a list. Very rarely used. Do you want to allow users to cancel attendees in the check-in app? You can allow your people to. It's at the home tab. You remember there were 3 tabs: all attendees, not checked in, and checked in. Do you want to set one of those as the default tab when you open? And you have the option of, if you are using group bookings and you want to be able to check everyone in the group in when one person checks in, you have that option. Simply enable it here. Down here is where you can select the fields that are displayed, and this has actually been upgraded, I think for a few months now, where it used to be you were limited to 4 fields, but now you can select up to 10 fields to have available for search purposes. And you can decide how many of those fields display when opened. Okay, so that is mobile check-in. Pardon me. Next, let's talk about self-scan. Now, self-scan, again, as I said, would be a system where you're providing the barcode and you are using a laser scanner, such as the one on the screen, connected to a laptop, to scan that barcode. Pardon me. We have some of these barcode or these scanners available at University of Benson Protocol. This web page on our support site talks about how to use them and gives you a way to reserve them. But if you have your own, you're absolutely free to use those. Now, this is one of those lines where there's an edit button for the features. And if I actually just click self-scan, that will open a page. So let's start with the different options available. And these are pre-programmed, and normally badge settings would be turned off. So here, if I wanted to use the printing section, if I wanted to print on site, this is how I would turn that on. And if I have not activated the badge back at badges, labels, and certificates, this would not even appear here. So if you're following along and you say, boy, Steve said you could print these. How am I supposed to do it? I don't see a setting here. That's probably what's going on. You haven't turned one of those badges to active. So I'm going to turn that on, and you have your choice. If you have enabled multiple badges and you want to decide which badge to print when the person arrives, you can use this second option. But if you only have one badge design, you can specify it here, and I only have one activated. And these are the instructions on how this works. So after you've checked in a person, I really don't have a way of demonstrating online how these windows pop up, but I'll just try to describe them to you. So after you have scanned the code and they are checked in, the print palette of your computer will open up, should be set to the badge, and again, it usually gives you a preview of what you're sending to the printer, and if everything looks good, you just hit print and it goes. And that can happen very fast once everything is set up properly. Okay, just a slight delay, but be aware of that. A print palette will open up if you have this enabled and you check somebody in, and then just hit the enter button or hit print, and it'll be good to go. Some other settings you have here, if you want to customize how the self-scan page looks, you can by adding a header. We have already pre-programmed some things in here for you, such as if it's successful, you'll get a green message that, okay, this person's checked in. If there's a problem with the barcode, you'll get a red error message that pops up. You also have the option, maybe, do you even want to check in a person? I don't know why you wouldn't, but if for some reason you don't want to, you can disable that feature. But if you leave this enabled, the person's status will be changed from confirmed, which is what they get after they've completed a registration, to being marked as attended. And so you'll see that in your reports, confirmed people versus attended people. That's what that's referring to. If you are scanning a person and they've already checked in, you'll get another message just to make you aware that that has happened. If you are accepting payment at the door as an option and a person hasn't paid your fees yet, you could have an error message pop up to tell you that they still owe you some money. And if the badge has already been printed once, again, there's another way for you to be warned, hey, this guy already got a badge, what's going on? Okay, so those are the settings you have available for self-scan. Now, self-scan itself, when I just click on its name, and it opens up this page. So this is the kiosk page. If I was setting this up on a machine, I'd have this page open. I'd close this browser back here, which because it's my account I'm logged into, and I would be good to go. Once I scan the barcode, it's usually the barcode represents the confirmation number. It'll enter the number and then give you whatever that message is, that green, they're good to go, or one of the error messages. After a couple seconds, if you are using, the print function again, then the print window will pop up and you hit enter and the badge will print very quickly on your printer, and this will clear out ready for the next scan. Okay? So let's pause here a minute. I keep talking about these barcodes. How do you get your attendees those barcodes? Well, there are a couple different ways. The most common way is to use an email. And I tend to create or send an email and give the barcode in the reminder. I mean, you could do it in the confirmation, but for events that use barcodes, I usually send a reminder the day before or the morning of, just to make it easy for the attendee to find it. You would be able to scan that barcode either from a printed email or just from the email displayed on their screen like a phone. Or if you're using the STOVA mobile app option, there is a way to display a barcode through the app. So I'm going to show you how to add it to the reminder. Let's go in here. I don't think I've added it yet here. Oh, I have, but let me just show you how to add it again. So usually I'll put some text in here like, bring this email to check-in to make check-in go faster for you. You can find any merge codes here by clicking the button View Merge Fields. And then I just usually use a web browser search function to find the one I want. This will give me the graphic of a barcode here. If for some reason I wanted the barcode number, I could do that. Does it give me any more? And here could be a handy feature. So if you're using group bookings and you want to give someone in the group all the barcodes, like the primary attendee, the person who first submitted the registration for everybody, give them all the barcodes for all of their group. You can do that with these additional merge field options. Okay, I'm just going to give the single purpose barcode. I just copied it, paste it, and it's good to go. Now I cannot see it, the barcode. I cannot see it here. I cannot see it in preview. I could see it if I sent myself a test email. Another way to see it is to go back to the registrant list. And again, this is just for preview purposes. I'm showing you this. And I can hit that send email. And keep opening up on the other screen. And Let's see if that's the one that's got my... Oh, the previews have stopped working now. I forgot that. Okay, well, skip that. This feature no longer works. You'll have to just send yourself a test email. When you do send yourself a test email, it'll ask you if you want sample data. Just pick a name from the list and send it, and you'll see what that looks like. Okay, so that you just have to take my word for it. So that's how you get the merge codes to people, the barcodes to people. Another tip, a pro tip, I would say, is that's lovely to send people the barcode and hope that they bring it. And it's like, well, hope springs eternal, but you might want to hedge your bets. Something we provided back over on badges, labels, and certificates is we have a sheet ready with their name and barcode. Maybe you'd want to print these up and have them in a book sitting next to check-in. Simply run this. I'll take it to show you what this looks like, and you'll see the barcodes. How do you want those to be sorted when people come to your table? Maybe here, I'd want that to be last name and first name. And again, let's just do general admission. Right? People come to the table and they say, oh, I registered, but I didn't bring my email and my phone's doesn't have it. Okay, what's your name? Look in the book, scan the barcode. Great, you're in. Now we can move along. So there is a pro tip for you. Put those in a binder next to your check-in tables to help speed up check-in for you. All right, that's it for self-scan. Next, we go to public self-check-in, and let's show you what that looks like. Again, this is a kiosk mode where you pick two fields that you use to validate who the person is when they check in. Okay, this is what it looks like, and they're just manual enter fields. Lovely. Down here, the edit, here's where you pick what two fields you want to use. These are the ones by default: email address and reference ID, which is also the confirmation number. But you can decide which you want to use. You might want to decide reference ID. People might not remember what their reference ID is. Maybe I'll just use their last name, make it simple. Or maybe I've got some other question in the attendee info registration process that I want to use as the validation. Here is how you set it up. Select it here, hit save and stay, and those will be the two fields that will be used. Another pro tip is, even if you're using whatever you're using, you might want to send email or say the text in the confirmation email. Here's what information you will need for check-in. Field number 1 is this, field number 2 is that, right? Using merge fields to display the same information they'll use. Okay? Fingers crossed that will help your attendees. Anything else? Details down here for settings. Well, if they're coming from, so activated, this is referring to other attendee statuses that maybe you are using. Again, by default, usually they're marked as confirmed, but you can choose to have people as activated. Maybe you want people who are canceled to still be able to check in, or are they on the wait list? Can't say I've seen a lot of these other ones used. Usually there's coming straight from confirmed, and yes, you want them to be able to check themselves in. That's the point of the kiosk mode. Okay. Again, more warnings that you can turn on. Do they owe you money? Do you want to allow them to modify their data or their agenda? And do you want this kiosk to automatically log out after a certain period of inactivity? And here's that badge setting. So this is another, so you couldn't do it on mobile check-in. You can do it on self-scan. As far as generating the badge, you can also do it here on public self-check-in. Same thing. Which template do you want to use? And by kiosk, you can purchase or rent literal check-in kiosks where this is on and they've got a printer built into it. This can be used with those systems. Some more, if you want to customize what that page looks like, you can do that here. We don't do it for you. Okay, lovely. And lastly, we have administrator check-in. And this is what it looks like. Like I said, it's mobile check-in on steroids. So you decide which fields you have available for searching. Once you find the person you want, you'll just simply check the box and they're checked in. Now, if I made a mistake here with Viola, she shouldn't be checked in. I actually have to go back into the attendee record and manually change their status. But I can get there a little quickly by clicking on the spy class next to their name. That will open up their attendee profile. So, and keep that in mind if you need just to check on some details or they've come to the table and say, I want to check in, but I need to change something. Can I use a different phone number? Here's how you can find them and then jump into their attendee profile to make that quick edit. Or if you need to make a registration on site, you do have admin registration here. This is the same feature as if you were in the registration site pull down. Remember, there is preview registration, public registration, and admin registration where you can skip required fields, everything except payment. So you can do that from within here. Generally not something you would have your attendees look at, administrative check-in, right? You would have this available for your team to use. And that comes to the conclusion of these displays, but I have a few more pro tips for you. And I should have mentioned this during self-scan, but if you're setting up self-scan, you'll probably want to test that the scanners are working. Well, how would you do that? Yes, you could scan in some of your attendees, maybe even your staff, but you might have not thought of that ahead of time. And if you want to still check them in, the actual people, then you would need to go back into their registrations and reactivate them. As I just said, go back in their profiles and change their status. Or you can do this. This is what I do when I'm setting up big events. I first make a category, which I call scanner test. It's not public. This is just used as me as an admin. And then I will use the import registrations option to import a list I have of fake people that I use for these demonstrations and just to test systems. And then I will use that feature under badges, labels, and certificates to print out a sheet of these scanner test category people. And I will take that around to my different workstations and I will scan that. And the advantage to doing that, first of all, I don't have to go back and reactivate them. They're not actual people. But I can also then go into registrant list and then mark them as inactive or canceled so they don't show up in my reports. Okay, so one more pro tip for you there. And lastly, wanted to provide this information to you. This is on our support site. This quick link goes to our support site where you have information on all of these different kind of check-in features. Again, there for the self-scan has the reservation form and other tech recommendations. But what I wanted to say is you can use more than one of these check-in options during your event. You're not restricted to one at all. In fact, if you see or come to our event vendor showcase coming up this month, or if you've been before, you usually see us have multiple pieces of equipment ready for you scanning your email. And or if you forgot it, well, why don't you go to the mobile check-in? We'll just get you quickly logged in there. And if you have bigger problems, we can't find you, we might send you down to the end of the desk for administrative check-in. So These can all work together for your event. So now that comes to the conclusion of my presentation. I want to open it up to any final questions for you all. Anything about badges, labels, and certificates, or the different check-in options. Checking the chat for any questions. Not seeing any hands raised. Well, while I wait to see if anybody has any questions, let me just throw up this support slide as we come to the conclusion. If you have questions after you leave here, here are some error options for getting those answers. Post them in our Slack channel. Let the entire hive mind of other STOVA users here at ASU help you solve your problem. Point you back to our support site. We have lots of pages on not just the check-in features, but lots of other options and features and how-tos about the STOVA system, specifically designed for ASU users. Just send us an email. Happy to answer your questions that way. You can go to our YouTube channel where these kind of webinars are appearing. And we'd see we've got 2 more workshops this term. One tomorrow is on the marketing module, and the last STOVA Essentials is being presented in 2 weeks. Or you can come on Tuesdays from 1:30 to 2:30 to our office hours. We post the link to the office hours in our Slack channel. Just come and ask your questions. It's an open forum for questions. Now, Laura and I just work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. If you have questions outside of those hours, you can contact the vendor directly through their email here or through the support site, which you can get to through your user account in the hidden menu, which will take you to their documentation, a link to a chat, a way to have talk to them via 800 number, and you're free to use that as well. Okay, well, I see no questions popping up, so I guess we'll be able to give you about 30 minutes back to your day. Hope you found this useful, and hope to see you again at one of our other support sites. So have a good rest of your day. Bye now.